Hey, welcome back to the garden. Last week we were taking plants out of the ground, and this week we're going to be putting plants into the ground. So welcome to the show. This is Hedgery. So I've picked up a bunch of transplants from a local nursery called Green and Growin', and also from the blue store and the orange store, based on stuff that the local place was out of stock. What I've got here is some basil, parsley, I've got some oregano, a couple of different Roma tomatoes, winter squash, and then over here I've got a bunch of summer squashes and some more basil, some dill, and we'll talk a bit more about those as I put them in. So you can see a lot of these onion tops have started to tip over and dry out, which means they're getting along to where I'm going to want to harvest them. And I did leave some of these carrots and beets in the garden in the hopes that they will get a little bit bigger before I harvest them. And they're also going to provide a little bit of extra shade, sort of a high-level mulch to help keep the soil from drying out quite so much, as these transplants are really sensitive to that in the beginning. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put tomatoes in the center of these quads in the back, so 4 squares per tomato plant. I'm going to put the Romas right here in the center, but I'm going to do a little bit more intensive intercropping than normal. So I'm actually going to plant some basil in the corners and oregano and parsley here, and the hope is that that'll help to deter some insect pests, and also, you know, those go good with tomatoes. All right, so we are going to be digging out a nice transplant spot right here in the corner of these 4 squares, and you can see this soil is starting to dry out, so I'm going to need to water it quite a bit, but I am expecting some pretty heavy rain today. We are heading into what is essentially Austin's mini monsoon, which is late May and early June. So I've got the first Roma here. I'm going to separate it from the pot, and I think these are a little pot bound. You can see that. So I need to kind of squish this up a little bit to encourage them. I don't want to destroy the roots, but I do want to kind of give them some incentive to get moving. And actually I'm going to amend this just a little bit, put a little bit of compost down here in the bottom and around the edges, and some of the soil back in, and then we're going to wet the whole thing down tremendously. You'll notice that there is a fruit already started. That's part of how I figured these were probably pot bound, is that they were starting to fruit. So I'm actually going to pinch that off. I don't want it putting energy into fruit right now. I want it to put energy into the roots. And there we go, get that nice and soupy. And make sure it's settled in there good. A bit more of this soil. And we're actually going to put a cage on top of this as well. There we go. We got some sweet basil over on the left, and then some curly parsley in front. Looks a bit like the carrots. And then over here you can see we got some Sicilian oregano and some cinnamon basil, which is the one with the flowers on it. Normally, I would do this either early morning or late in the afternoon, but we're expecting rain late this afternoon, and I wanted to get in before that to add some of that sky water I mentioned. There we go. On this side, we have some yellow summer squash and some pickling cucumbers in the back 2 rows, or back 2 squares. And the front, we have some dill and some pepper on the left, and half of the 2 squares that are allotted to a winter squash. Over here, we have the winter squash on the left side in front. Then we have a slicing cucumber in the back left. Then we have a zucchini on the back right. And then we have pepper and dill in the front right corner. So all the transplants are in, and before we go, I want to leave you with a question that has more than one correct answer. So all of these plants are transplants, meaning that they started somewhere else and now they've moved to here. And that can be a bit traumatic, but at the same time, it might mean that they have better growing conditions than being locked into that pot. So here's my question. If you could transplant, if you could change your circumstances in some particular way, what would it be? Think it over and share with us down in the comments. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, you are Hedgery.